First things first, JP, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's good to be here. The sun's shining. Set to be a good few days, I should think, for everybody.
Let's hope so.
I hope so.
So, before we talk about the music you are making at the moment, I'd like to jump back to the beginning quickly.
Okay.
Do you remember the first album you ever bought?
Yes, it was Bad by
Okay.
Michael Jackson. Yeah.
And at this time, do you remember why?
Um, I think he was probably like the first thing that I saw that I was just like, who is this guy? You know, dancing, singing, the whole thing. Like he was just like the coolest thing. So yeah, and I think one of my friends introduced me to him, and I think I looked up to my friend at the time, so I was like, I want to listen to what you're listening to, so I bought the record. Yeah.
And then any song that sticks out for you?
Um, the whole record was amazing.
Okay.
So
Fair
I
enough.
mean, what an incredible artist, songwriter. Like, just everything was amazing. There was never a
Right.
bad song. You know? I don't think so.
And I can imagine you were quite young at this point.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but was the idea of playing music yourself born at that time, or?
No,
Okay.
not
So,
at all.
so how long did it take?
It was mainly when I was a teenager. You know, we used to take these long trips to my grandparents' house in the car. And I remember enjoying singing along to the radio or whatever, but I never really thought maybe I'll be a singer, you know.
Right.
So I kind of was a teenager in Manchester in the 90s. So bands like Oasis and things like that were all over the world. You know, they were like the biggest thing. So most British kids in the UK had a guitar in the house.
Right.
So that was when I began to have a relationship with music through the group of friends that I had. It wasn't necessarily like a family thing. It's more of where I was in the world.
Sure.
And the friends that I had, you know. So I kind of stumbled upon a love for music, yeah.
Did you start writing immediately? You wrote
Very quickly. So I always enjoyed writing at school.
Okay.
Like, creative writing was like one of my favorite things. So that quickly turned into a music thing after, you know, first just singing a few songs by other bands, and then we started just making up little parts of songs and things, and so very quickly I started enjoying the idea of writing and creating. So yeah.
And did it take you long to write something you were proud of in a song?
I think I always kind of thought it was good, but I think I was a little bit shy to share it with people. So I mean, when I look back and I read some of the things that I wrote, I'm like, man, this is terrible. But you know, I was so young, so I think really there was constant progression. But I think by the time I really started coming out of my shell was when I stopped working with bands and I started doing my thing on my own.
Right.
And I just felt a freedom in that, in what I was saying and what I was doing and the way I was doing things. So that was a big change.
And then this may sound like a vague question, but what did you get out of it? And then especially when you were on your own and getting these thoughts onto paper and then performing them for people as well.
For me, it was something I always did. I felt like it was like between that and sports, they were the two things I was good at. So it was like when people complimented you about things, because I grew up in a place that doesn't like people that show off or anything like that. You know, we're quiet. Like, you know, they don't like people who are too much big characters, which you'd be surprised with people like Liam Gallagher and Noel Gallagher. But most of Manchester, like people there, are quite keep to yourself, do your thing. You know. So for me, it was never really. You don't get that many people who encourage you.
Right.
So there was, you know, for hearing somebody just say, "Oh, you're good at that," from a young age, it was like, okay, I enjoy that. I like the fact that people are enjoying something that I do. But a lot of it as well, I just loved writing. I loved like challenging myself. I loved the way it felt when I sang. I loved the way it felt when I listened to music. I loved the movement of this kind of scenes I was into.
Right.
And you know, I had a lot of good years of making no money making music. You know, like so.
you touched upon something that's very interesting because, well, you hear oftentimes the music industry is a fickle business. It's not easy to
Yeah.
kind of find your way through it. So what kept you going over the years?
Um, you know, the funny thing is, none of my, I didn't come from like an affluent background or area, so even when I was like in my later 20s, none of my friends were buying houses. None of them were having big jobs, so it didn't really feel like I was working in a bar. I was making music. As long as I was getting better, as long as there was progression, I was happy. Um, and then closer to when the deal came, you know, I became a father. I became a dad. So that changed things, and that was the point when it was like, maybe I need to start rethinking my career path. You know, as far as I can't just work in a bar and play concerts, and you know, here, there, and everywhere. And so, but luckily, the deal came, and now it's you know it's difficult as far as being a father and being a musician. But on just a financial level and moving forward, it means I can at least support that.
Sure.
So that's changed a
In
lot.
that sense, then it's very interesting. Did you come close to kind of calling it quits?
I think I would have always been making music. I think I came close to saying, do you know what? Because I always worked like low responsibility jobs,
Right.
so that I could do my music. And I came close to switching it and trying to find, you know, a job where I was like, okay, I'll do this. I'll make music. It's fun. I got close to giving up on the idea of like it being a career. And music's what I do, you know. Regardless of whether I signed a deal or not. But luckily, it came at a point where I couldn't have financially continued to be a musician and a dad, and you know, so luckily it came at the right time.
And then, like you say, Perfect Strangers comes along, and a little bit later September song.
Yeah.
So in that short of a span, how big a change was that? And then how did you experience it?
It's funny actually because the change it's still slowly happening now. You know, like I sit down here and you know. Just want to say, hey, how's it going? Who are you here with? And I'm like, oh, I'm JP Cooper. And they're like, oh, sorry, I don't know you.
Right.
You know, and we're still at that place, and it's cool. It's nice. It's not like there's a big change. Obviously, for me, I'm always thinking about the next thing. Like, so we've just put up the pre-order of the first album. We just finished my first European headline tour, and I'm always just thinking, okay, the next thing, which is exactly the same as I was when I was younger. It was like progression. It isn't about you've never just made it.
Sure.
You might have a moment of success, but the focus has to be on progression and growth, and your personal growth, musically and as a person, and what you're giving. So it's, of course, the numbers and the success of certain songs is great, but the main thing is just getting better.
Right.
That makes me happy.
And then, like you say, the next thing is your album.
Yeah.
So going into did you have because obviously you've been playing music a long time and you've released EPs in the past, but did you have a lot of songs stored up, or was it a whole new batch of?
We've been writing a lot. So we had too many songs for the album. Like the deluxe version has like 20 songs on it. You know, and it was very difficult to choose the songs because we write a lot. I write a lot. So there's a few songs from the past there, but a lot of them are completely new, and a lot of them we don't even play live yet.
Okay.
You know, so there's songs that people have never ever heard before on there. So, and we're going to keep it that way until the record comes out.
Fair enough. So, well, with certain songs, then did you already, because the debut album, and well, let's put it this way, you're not the youngest anymore.
Yeah.
So did you plan out what the debut album would be, what you wanted to kind of present to people? Did you have an idea of what you wanted?
I think I just wanted it to, I mean, the thing about your debut album is people say, you know, it's a lifetime in the making, or, you know, it's up until that point in your life in the making. But, so for me, a lot of it is autobiographical.
Okay.
A lot of it was quite a cathartic experience in the process of it. But the main thing I want and that I will continue to do is just honesty in the way that I write, the way that I write as a man, the way that I write, you know, learning to be more raw with the way I say things and the way I see things, and not being too scared to be male and to be vulnerable at times, and to be all of those things. So that will be a continuing process and a continuing journey. I just wanted to put out a first album that is something that the most important thing is that people will come back to it, back to it, back to it, and it isn't a case of like, oh, it's a cool thing now. I want a record that people will continuously be listening to, and hopefully, I feel we made that.
So kind of giving them something to think about and to relate to as well.
Of course.
This might be a mean question, and you might not want to answer this, but what song then was the most difficult for you to write down? You mentioned kind of being vulnerable and opening yourself up.
There's a song on the record called "Beneath the Streetlights and the Moon," and that one was a song that I wrote it looking back at a time in my life that that was an amazing time in my life, and I was looking back, and that time has passed, that time has gone, and I thought that I was okay with the fact that that has passed. But when I finished the song, recorded it, and listened back to it, it's like it messed me up. It really messed me up. It was hard to listen to. Even now, sometimes I find it hard to listen to without feeling incredibly emotional, like, because it says exactly what I wanted to say, and it speaks exactly of a particular time in my life. So that was a hard one, and that is one of the songs that people still haven't heard yet.
Right.
So that would still be a hard one to release as well.
Okay, so I won't pry into what it's about,
Nah.
but. And then what you mentioned, and you haven't performed live yet. So, but is that something that happens when you perform a song like that live, where you revisit that emotion? And
I think I've had, even just in the last few weeks, I've had a huge breakthrough in the way that I feel when I perform live. After being from Manchester, and after the horrible thing that happened in Manchester, and just in London last week, you know, I was in London the day that happened. You know, I spend most of my time in London now, and I did my headline show in London 4 or 5 days after the Manchester bombing. And there were so many people. Everybody was scared. Should I come to the concert? Should I be going now? Everybody's worried. And at that point, it was like, you know what? I just want to. There's so many times as a musician, I see things going on in the world, and I think, what am I doing? Writing songs, you know, sitting around writing songs. Like, I could be helping people with it. The amount of people that turned up at that show, and for me it was a healing process. Like, I was in tears before I went on stage, and just because I felt this thing built up inside of me, and all I wanted to do was give as much love and as much joy and as much hope as I possibly could. And that finally I connected with a purpose, like a thing that's like, even in my small little way, if I can make people just feel something positive that comes from a place of light in a time that's really difficult, then I'm good. So every single song, it's more about giving rather than my inward things. You know, it's more about just giving.
Finally, then, what is a memory or a reaction to your music that sticks out for you? Maybe a fan that came up to you, or
there's been a few. You know, even we just finished this European tour, and there was one show where there was a girl. I think she was like 2 or 3 rows back. And she was just crying the whole way through the show, and I had to jump off the stage and come and give her a hug. And there's been a few. I've had people propose to their girlfriends at concerts, like. Right in front of the stage, so I'm sure there'll be many more. But those are, you know, there's a couple. Often there'll be people you can see smiling and crying and having those moments that are healing and memorable. And people just, the whole thing. I mean, festivals, like coming out to places like this and just seeing people smiling with their friends and having a good time. It's a beautiful thing to offer that, and to be able to create a soundtrack for amazing times in people's lives. I'm a very lucky man. Yeah.
JP, thank you very much for your time.
All right.
Thank you.